Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Courtney Cronin with the final preview of this Rams team before we get J-Mac's thoughts tomorrow. Make sure that you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We got a lot to get into on today's episode. Injury updates, possibly going to see what the pairing of CJ and Kyler finally looks like on the field today. Starting to feel really good about that. Of course, talking about how the team's going to manage with some of the injuries they do have and how do we get off to a faster start. Got to hear from DA and Declan Doyle today. All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Courtney, as the playoffs get here, I get more tired. How are you?
Yeah, I feel that. It's weird because this week, as you and I were talking off air, around the Bears, like the narrative hasn't really changed. It's still the same things that we talked about in large part last week with the Packers. How do they avoid the letdown? How do they avoid not winning that game? Or, how do they avoid losing that game rather? And of course, in typical Bears fashion this year, they come back, they win that game. Wow, great, awesome, celebration, 4th and 8, Caleb Jumpman, all these things. Yet the same issues still remain with this team. Struggling in coverage, struggling to generate pressure on the quarterback, and not getting off to a fast enough start on either side of the ball where they feel comfortable that they would have a chance to build a lead on a team, to put a team out earlier instead of having to fire off these furious comebacks. But this is their identity. This is who they are. Yeah. This is what this team is going to be this week. And if they advance to the NFC Championship, I'm sure that we're going to be saying the exact same thing. But I'm ready for the game to be here, because I think that the juice that's gone into who the Chicago Bears team is, when there's so few teams playing right now, everybody gets a chance to see Caleb Williams and the connection and the magic that he and Ben Johnson have drawn up together. Yeah. I think it kind of validates the idea that they're doing things differently in Chicago. You're winning because of your quarterback. You're winning because of your passing game. And you're doing it in the playoffs, which is super important.
All right, let's start off because you talk about being able to create pressure. And by the way, make sure that you guys tap in with today's sponsor, Underdog. As always, make picks, win money. You talk about being able to create pressure, and it seems like we're heading into a practice week here, two days into this now, where there could be some help at some pressure, or adding some pressure to this team. As CJ Gardner-Johnson, we know what he meant to this team as far as being able to sack the quarterback. Finally being able to get on the field, I believe, for the first time this season with Kyler Gordon, possibly. How big is that going to be for this Bears defense? Because you just haven't been able to create pressure the traditional way, rushing for. You did a little bit more in the second half of that Packers game, but still blitzing at about a 36% rate in that second half. How much of an impact do you think having CJ and Kyler on the field together is going to make?
Well, we did see it in Philly. Remember, that was Kyler's first
Philly game. You're right.
Kyler Gordon's first game back. That was CJ Gardner-Johnson's trip back to Philly, the team that he won a Super Bowl with. And that's when they played a lot of dime. So to have the full complement of your secondary back, there's nobody else that is injured right now that may or may not be, real contributors that may or may not be able to go. I think it's a really big deal that he was able to do enough to get through whatever phase of the step of the concussion protocol to be able to play, or to be able to put himself in position to play. He had his first practice today on Thursday. They had a walkthrough on Wednesday. So I think it would, for as much as they cut Kyler Gordon loose, and that's, I think, what ultimately was the one of the deciding factors of why the defense was able to get it going in the second half, because they had Kyler Gordon on the corner blitz and they were able to put themselves in a position where they could actually get some pressure on Jordan Love. It wasn't a lot, but it was more than they had in the first half. Yeah. Adding Gardner-Johnson to the mix and having, some dedicated roles in there about playing the run, the guys that they're going to be used in certain blitz packages. We know that he obviously is a willing, participant in that too. I think it gives you the option of being able to get a little bit more creative with your secondary and not have guys out on an island in coverage, and being able to use that as part of the strategy to pressure Matthew Stafford, because he's hard to get pressure on. 42 dropbacks last week and 42 passing attempts, or more dropbacks than that. I think he dropped back closer to 50 times by the time it was all said and done. He gets the ball out really quickly. So if you can't get home because he's getting the ball out quickly, then you better be covering on the back end or at least trying to find ways to limit what that passing attack could be. So I thought Grady Jarrett said it properly on Wednesday that they've got to earn the right to rush the passer because of what this offensive line has been able to hold up and do and what Matthew Stafford's good at doing and getting the ball out quickly. But having another, somebody who could bring pressure at the cornerback position in CJ Gardner-Johnson, I think will help what that defense is able to do. I mean, more bodies at this point. You're throwing everything you can to try to stop this opponent because you don't live to the next week if you don't.
Yeah. For me, looking through the injury report here, it feels obvious to go with Theo Benedict as your left tackle going into this game. We saw what he was able to do. I'm not sitting here telling you it was leaps and bounds better than Braxton Jones, but it did feel like it was better when you saw him in the game. But with Braxton Jones being back and being a full go the last couple of days here, of course, today, the first day, like you said, that they really got out there to practice. Is there any chance that they go backwards and say, we know that Ozzy's not out there. We've got a starter with 40 starts who's now sitting on the bench. Let's go to that young man over maybe Theo Benedict, or is this Theo's job to lose?
I think this is Theo Benedict's job because you wouldn't, after all that time, remember Braxton Jones hasn't started a game at left tackle since the Raiders game.
Yep.
And then he got benched at halftime. That'd be a really weird look for them to go back on that 1 week after, or a couple days. Yeah, 1 week after Theo Benedict, because Braxton Jones was not active last week.
He wasn't active, yeah.
Theo came in that game end of the fourth quarter. It was below the 2-minute warning. There's not really much you can take away from him stepping into that role, but in that moment. But I think the way that he played in 7 starts this year, and most recently he had to start that week 18 game because Ozzy Trapillo had a quad and I believe
was out, yeah,
like a knee injury.
Yeah, both of them, quad and knee.
Yeah, so it was a lot, like to ask him at this point to have to, move back into the starting lineup, but he has done it quite a bit. Like I don't know if it'll be as good, obviously, as what Theo Benedict has provided this offense. He's been pretty solid, honestly, ever since that first start in Minnesota. And there are a couple moments where it felt like there was a learning curve that he was having to overcome during the year. I think he's been solid, but I think for Theo Benedict then to have a clean bill of health and knowing that he just started a game 2 weeks ago, that's going to give the Bears confidence. And I don't think there's any other discussion about them going a different direction. But it's good that Braxton Jones is there and that's your depth.
You need it at this point. I mean, if you lose Theo, he's right back in there. It does feel like a better. It's so weird. We went from a left tackle position where it was like, I don't think we have anybody who can play, to now it feels like you, at a minimum, your backup is probably a guy that has 40 NFL starts in his career, though he's never been in the playoffs. So was Braxton?
No, they've never been.
No, Braxton came 19, right?
22.
22. Yeah. So he's never been in the playoffs. Both of the experience level is the same at that position. A couple of limited.
That's a tough defensive line you're going against either way, whether it was Ozzy Trapillo in there or Theo Benedict. I mean, Braden Fisk has had a really good season. Obviously, we know about Jared Verse and and what he provides, and Poona Ford. I mean, like from left side to right side of the defensive line and your interior guys, like this will probably be the best defensive line they face this year.
What's been your assessment of how the defense for the Rams has kind of taken a step backwards, I guess, over the last 6 or 7 weeks?
I'd say it's more the secondary than anything else.
You're starting to see points given up over there.
And that's the whole idea that the Rams are the most complete team in the NFC, I think is true in terms of talent from top to bottom, but they haven't played like it. That's the thing. Like there's been a regression for them on the defensive side of the ball, especially in that secondary. That is why I feel like this is a gettable game for the Bears as a 3.5-point dog.
Yeah, no, I look at this and I think that it's so funny. Like we keep saying this, if you can put 4 quarters together, it's almost like, hey, it's football. You're supposed to play 4 quarters, and the Bears play 60 minutes, but usually the final 20 are a lot better than the first 40, right? But like, if you can put 4 quarters together, I agree with you. I think this is a game that's very gettable for the Chicago Bears, and it's one where you're going to have to put up points. But we've seen that this team can go out there and find a way to do that. Couple of the point getters though on this team that might be important here, limited right now. Any concern from you at all with DJ Moore and Roma Dunze both being limited?
I mean, Rome in the foot, we know that that's an issue. I would tend to believe that this is more maintenance for him. Like, he played a full game last week. His targets, his workload didn't come until the second half, and I think that that's a byproduct of how well Colston Loveland played, the impact that they got elsewhere. Um, I just don't see I don't see that as anything other than just trying to be cautious. And we know with DJ Moore, he's got a knee injury. The guy's had an injury just about every week that he's been battling through, and
Yeah.
it's never once cost him from a game. So I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be to me like seeing them get back on the field together. It looked like it took a little while for everybody to get comfortable together, but once it did, again, like you go back to the fast start conversation, you go back to this offense hitting the ground running, and I think they're very big in that. One of the biggest plays is a run play where just having Rome back on the field, it looked like your run blocking on the outside was very key again, right? Like that was one of the things that I thought was going to be massive when you lost him for that amount of time. And you
Mhm.
saw the rushes decrease week over week. You saw, those percentages stay decent, but having Rome back out there, it seemed like Ben was a little bit more willing to go, we're running this ball to the outside because we got one of our best run blockers
Well,
out
and
here.
they need to I mean, that's when we talk about fast starts and we talk about what this offense has lacked, like 93 rushing yards last week was like the fourth lowest this
Yeah,
season. Oh, 2 weeks removed from them running for 65 yards against the Lions. If they don't find the run game, they don't win this game. They don't. And I mean, we know that weather's going to be a factor. It's going to be really cold on Sunday night. And the run game to generate those explosives, like this is a hard front seven for them to run on regardless, but you have to put forth that effort so you're not one dimensional against that pass rush. I I get why in the second half because it was 21-3 against the Packers that they felt they needed to throw the ball. They needed to get
100%.
climb their way back into that game. The way you prevent against that, I think is trying to play a little bit more time of possession in the first half with the run game. Like where has DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai gone the last
Yeah.
4 weeks, more or less. Like this is an issue. I think the run game has been their strength. I mean, they had the second most explosive plays on the ground this season. You have to find those. You have to find like the plays that keep you on track and then the explosive plays that are going to help you get points.
Is this a Ben Johnson issue, you think, or is this just how the game has flowed? Because the one thing that I see on a pretty consistent basis is no matter how many times you run, you're still dropping back to pass 25 plus times. You're still putting that ball in the air and you're going for the explosive plays. And I don't feel like it's like Matt Nagy where he's forgetting the run. I do feel like though it is, there are specific times where it is neglected. When it's 4th and 1 and
Yep.
you're actually running the football on the drive and you're in the red zone and you go, we know everyone's expecting a run here. Let's do a drop back pass where DJ Moore falls down and we accidentally throw an interception.
Yeah, and I think the San Francisco game, like they ran the ball 5 times in the first half. That was I know Ben Johnson was a little surprised by that just coming away from the game. It's like, okay, like you thought you would have run it more. Um I don't is it a Ben Johnson thing? Is it a byproduct of what the other defense is doing? I mean, every player is going to say, "Oh, well, we've played them, Green Bay, that is, like they played them 3 times in a season. They're going to try to do things to stop them that they know they can key in on with the
Yeah.
run." I think a lot of it is he gets into a rhythm with Caleb and he wants Caleb to get in a rhythm, just like he did in the second half last week, where like the byproduct of trying to climb back in a game actually helps your quarterback because he's becoming more accurate. He was so accurate in the fourth quarter, all the explosive plays that not that you neglect the run game, but you're like, hey, this is working. We're going to stick with this.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
It's such a because it's such a strength for the team. And I think it helps your offensive line lock in. I think it's going to be important for you with Theo Benedette out there because you want an offensive line that's not giving ground, that's taking ground in the run game. That's when you start to do that. You're going up against some tough defensive linemen out there. And guess what? Unfortunately, Theo's probably going to be the one that gets picked on in this game. It's probably going to be a lot of what we saw the Lions do, right? Jared Verse versus Theo Benedette. Let's see if you can go out there and win. I feel like you give yourself so much more of an advantage if you actually start this game running the football, especially with guys who are running as hard as you've got Kyle Monunga and DeAndre Swift running. I mean,
Hmm.
they have embodied Eric Bieniemy perfectly. And it feels like a strength that at times you've just gone, we don't need this right now. We're going to put it on the shelf.
Yeah. But that can't happen this week.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the conditions. Like, and I know that we've made so much about the weather and how it's going to affect what the Rams, how prepared they are for it. They've never played in a game this season this cold. I get that. But the Bears still, like, when you think about what happened in that Cleveland game, another really cold weather game, and how much the run, what their whole plan was with the run and how it affected the game, that's a tone setter. That was a tone setter the week before in Green Bay, the game that they lost. I think that if you unnecessarily make yourself one-dimensional if you can't commit to it early on and try to stick to it. And the fact that Ben Johnson is saying that the production's dipped, he's the first one who's pointed out, hey, there's something wrong here. To me, that highlights the importance of that's how you get off to a fast start, because if you can at least run the ball, get yourself in field goal range in the very worst, even if the pass game isn't clicking, if the wind is a factor, if the cold's a factor, whatever it is, you still need to be able to get as close as you can. And I think the run, obviously, like, for as good as they've been, for as physical as they've been, I think they match up well with the front seven. It's going to give them a challenge, but at least they bring that same sort of challenge with them.
I love that we have the running conversation and then we get to our underdog pick today, because as much as I hope that this is one where we're running the football a ton and we're dictating policy just for the time of possession in this. I mean, they ran the ball solid and the time of possession looked a little bit more even versus Green Bay than it did in previous games versus San Francisco and versus Detroit. I do think that ball is going to be in the air, Courtney. As we get into our underdog play, Courtney went with Luther Burden higher than 38.5. Yurko went with Puka Nacua higher than 98.5. receiving yards. It's going to be an offensive day for Puka for Yurko.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm going Caleb Williams higher than 220.5 going into this game, because Courtney, I think that this is still going to be one of those games where the Bears, while maybe they still run the ball. I mean, we still saw a ton of passes from Caleb in that Philly game, and I think we ran the ball 40 times that day. I think this is a game where the ball is in the air and where you're going to see the receivers be a little bit more on the detail.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's like the first to 50. I know that people have been throwing that figure out there because of the shootout that the Rams got themselves into last week on the road, having to climb back in and like under the 2-minute warning to go win that game, and how the Bears have done things. When you have two teams that are so like adept at finishing games in the fourth quarter, like the OG of it with Matthew Stafford. I believe it's 4 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter. 4 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter of overtime in a playoff game in his career. Caleb just did it last week. That signals these two teams can go blow for blow because both quarterbacks can handle that. So I think the idea of a stout passing game from both teams, but particularly from the Bears, as much as we think that they're going to try to run the ball in these conditions, we've thought that before, and it's usually led to a big day from Colston Loveland. Luther Burden explodes against the San Francisco 49ers. All of those trends that seem very hard to buck at this point because it's kind of who they are. So I agree with you.
It's so funny. Like when and I'm trying to get this up here because I believe the Philly game, they ran it. 47 carries in the Philly game. Caleb Williams still threw the football 36 times. Like that's just, it's just who they are. He wants the ball in the air. The ball is going to be in the air. And I think that 220.5 in a playoff game, especially like you said, with the Rams DBs as banged up as they are, that should be easy money for Caleb Williams this week. Make sure that you guys download the Underdog app today. Sign up with the promo code CBP to save $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. There's promo code CBP. Underdog, make picks, win money. EOQ the disclaimer. Must be 18 years or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or over in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
I love that my husband's so handy. He leaves more money for the important stuff. Gosh darn it, Steve.
Oh, don't be like Steve. Call Avondale Roofing. DIY is for Pinterest, not your roof.
Welcome back in here, Chicago Bears podcast. Pat, the designer, Courtney Cronin, back at it again. Today's episode also brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field. Exit 6, right off I-80, 94. All right, Courtney. Now, all week, every Bears fan who has been here and has been a Bear fan forever has heard the word Bear weather. And every Bear fan for the most part has gone, it's not real. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing that affects people. Don't buy into it. But when you start to look at some of the numbers that go with this Rams team in adverse conditions, now not all this specific team, it does seem like the production starts to go a little bit the other direction. So in your mind, is Bear weather a thing coming into this game? And is it a thing that maybe the Bears just have to finally take advantage of? That, yeah, a team is going to play down, but you have to still score more points than they do.
Well, I think number one place that affects things should be like the first thought people have is the kicking game. Yeah. Because we know Soldier Field, regardless of hot, cold, whatever, like it's a hard place to kick because of the way that the wind comes off the lake. So Harrison Mevis obviously is a seasoned kicker, but like Cairo Santos kicks in these conditions 8 to 9 times a year. And they have had the opportunity to go down there this week in practice at Soldier Field to get themselves in position to where whatever happens Sunday night. I mean, hell, last week we thought the snow was going to stay and stick, and then it was gone by beginning of the game.
Yeah.
So I like the Bears have played in these conditions a lot this year, like cold weather teams. That's why you want to host these playoff games. So you can take a team like a Rams team that plays indoors and plays in warm weather conditions. Obviously, like they've faced some cold games. I mean, Seattle in that game in December, it wasn't warm it was raining when they were playing in that crazy overtime game with the 2-point conversion, with the crazy 2-point conversion. But this is a different level. I think it's the wind factor here too. Like they're going to be prepared. Like every NFL team has the gear that you need. Every NFL team has, the heated benches, the big coats, like all of the stuff to protect you. I think that if you're not used to it though, to last 60 minutes in it, that's definitely a new thing. And players have talked about, like, you have to get used to it. Like even Grady Jarrett said he saves his cold weather gear, like his full sleeves, for a game like this.
Yeah.
And I think there's an advantage that the Bears have, having played in Soldier Field in that Cleveland game a couple of weeks ago. Now that did feel like, I guess technically this game at kickoff will be a lower temperature than that. There was sun out, but it was still really cold. The more prepared you are, like everybody's practicing. Everybody's got a game plan. Everybody has an idea for how you beat your opponent. But the Bears are practicing in this. There's no heaters on at practice. You don't see them like you do right behind the sideline, on the bench. So I think that that's kind of what their advantage is. Like the Rams aren't coming out here a day early. Remember a couple weeks ago when the Steelers played on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins and Miami flew up a day early and they got to practice in the snow in Pittsburgh. And obviously that game was not great. But they at least acclimated themselves. The Rams have chosen not to do that. And I don't know if that's going to be to their advantage or to their disadvantage, but as a whole, you're the team that's hosting the other team. You play in these conditions. You should have the advantage here. They'd be in a bad spot post game if they lose and somehow the weather played into an effect that factored negatively for the home team, the team that constantly plays in this.
I think the biggest difference that plays into this, listen, whether Bear weather is a thing or not, you finally have a team that can take advantage of it, right? Like the teams that we've seen in the past that people have talked about, we're going to be playing in Bear weather. You think about, 94, I believe, when San Francisco came up here and put 28 points on the Bears and everybody was talking about Bear weather. It was like, yeah, it didn't work that time, but it did work versus the New Orleans Saints when they had to come up here. It has worked versus the Los Angeles Rams when they've had to come to Soldier Field. Like, I think there are scenarios where you can point to it where you say it works, but we look at these situations and say, well, that's a one-off, where probably that's more of the norm because it is a shock to some of these West Coast teams coming here, especially some of these dome teams coming here. We've seen it have an effect on Jared Goff. We saw it have an effect on the running game that the Rams had previously. Like, it doesn't take everything falling apart. I think Matthew Stafford will be fine. I think Devontae Adams will be fine. Is Puka Nacua going to be okay in this weather? Oh, he played at BYU. It's a while ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that there are certain guys that it is going to affect, and that's the advantage where can the Bears take advantage of it? And on top of that, like, how much is this? The one thing that we saw, if it happens again, there is no coach in this NFL that has coached against that Chicago crowd that we saw last Sunday. If that returns, which Bears fans, we need that to return, I think it might be a tougher day for the Rams than we think, because now you've got all of these different things affecting you. And on top of that, like you said, the wind is supposed to be what, 18 to 25 miles that day. That's going to affect the passing game a little bit. Are your running backs going to be prepared for the situation you're in? It might speak to actually Bear weather helping the Bears for once in this stadium.
Yeah, and I mean, the crowd is, you can't undersell how important they were last week. That delay of game late in the game against the Packers was a big moment, and that's because of how loud it was. Everybody's talked about it. Richard Hightower said it today. He's been in the league 18 years. He's never seen a crowd like that and the impact that it had. Ben Johnson repeatedly talked about it and what that does for the game to feed off of that. So I think that this is, sometimes that stuff sounds like lip service and just sounds like, okay, that's an easy thing for coaches to talk about because it keeps them from having to talk about the game plan or anything else. But I do think that factors into a team with a lot of young stars there, defense and offense, a team that just pulled out a win on the road. How are they going to be able to do that again at Soldier Field when the conditions are going to be worse? They did play in rain in Carolina. The conditions are going to be worse, though. It's going to be much colder. And I'd venture to guess that the crowd's going to be a lot more intense than what they faced in Carolina.
And isn't there also a chance of rain Sunday as well? Didn't I see that? Is there sleet coming? Ooh, yeah, 18 to -1. You're not doing sideline work on
No, but I've got early TV on Sunday morning, like 7:30 in the morning. So that's going to be really, really, really balmy, I'm sure.
Break out the snow gear yet again, Courtney. What's your final prediction for this game? Do the Chicago Bears make it to the NFC title game, or is this where the magic finally runs out?
I'm not picking them this week. This will be my one time, I think in the first time in a long time, where I have not picked them. And I know that some fans aren't going to like that pick, but I think that this Rams team, with Matthew Stafford playing the best football of his career right now, he's going to win the MVP. Puka Nacua is going to get 15 targets. Devontae Adams is going to be the threat for them inside the 5-yard line. I think it's a close game. I understand why the line's at 3.5, but I think it's like, regardless of what happens, fast start, not fast start, I think that the Rams just have too much firepower at the end of the day that they end up winning, let's say like 31-29, 31-28. I think it'll be another really high scoring affair, but I don't think I think given, you got to expect who this team is right now, what they've shown you is who they are, and who they are is a team that cannot be trusted in the first half to get off to a fast start. So until I see otherwise, prove me wrong. I'll happily take the L on that. But I think they will get into another shootout. I don't think they finish the job. And I think it's an incredible season regardless of what happens.
The more I've gone back and forth on this, because I keep saying, like, my heart, of course, wants to pick the Bears to win. My head goes, the Rams are actually the better football team.
Yep.
But then my brain goes back to, well, so was Philly, or we thought they were, until the Bears went in there and found a way to win that game. So was Dallas's offense early in the season, right, where we were like, you're going to have to put up points, and you haven't been able to do it. Time and time again, we've seen this Bears team find a way to step up in the weirdest ways in the world. So with what this team has put together this season, I do think, like you say, high-scoring affair, but I think the Bears find a way to steal a couple of possessions that they weren't able to get last week. Remember, Javon Dexter falling on that fumble. And when you see, I don't know if you've gone back and watched it, when you see it in prime vision, it is impressive that he didn't get that fumble recovery. Like, he's nowhere near the sideline.
There were a couple of those that they should have gotten.
Ball flies up. Like I think the Bears steal a couple of possessions in this game. Matthew Stafford has been known in these conditions to throw the football to the other team. I think we've got a Bears 34-28 win. And the Chicago Bears are going to be representing the NFC in the NFC title game versus, I'm going to go Seattle Seahawks.
It's
I
fair.
feel like
I
that's
think
a
that
tough loss
the
to have.
49ers are so banged up right now. And I mean, we said it
Yeah.
last week, but they got even more hurt with losing George Kittle. So
Yeah.
a Bears Seahawks NFC title game that no one would have seen coming would make for incredible theater. I think it will end up being Seattle, a rematch of whatever that like week 16 game.
Yeah.
Seattle and Los Angeles.
It's I'm not gonna lie to you, Courtney. It's kind of gross that Sam Darnold might go to the Super Bowl.
Long overdue.
It's kind
For
of just
a
like,
top
are
pick.
we really doing this? Sam Darnold going to the Super Bowl? Like, it's we'll see what ends up happening. Let us know you guys' predictions down in the comments below. Down there talking with you guys as well. As always, for Courtney Cronin, it's your boy Pat the designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down, one love. Let's find a way to get one more win. We just need one more win, and then one more, and then one more. Peace.